Dave, this is Leon White, Big Van Vader, coming at you live from Boulder, Colorado. Now, it's my understanding, sir, you are a retired Army, and you retired with a medical pension. And it does not include the severity of your injuries or how you were injured, but my thanks for your service, sir. And I hope you're doing great, getting better, doing well, and life is treating you fairly. It's my understanding that Dead on Dave Productions is becoming a big success for you, and I couldn't be happier. Dead on Dave Productions just got 500 new subscribers, covering a wide range of variety of wrestling topics. So obviously you're a wrestling fan, and I love wrestling. Wrestling was my life. Wrestling is my life. I live it, breathe it, sleep it, as I once did football. So from the power of the Rocky Mountains, Dave, and Boulder, Colorado, I bring you the Prince of Power, wishing you all the best on Dave on Dead Productions. Got me there. So, hey, man, you got 500 new subscribers. You are running strong, living loud. Get it done. If you're going to do it, get the job done right. Again, Big Van Vader from Boulder, Colorado, wishing you all the best, Dave.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I am your Lord, Dead on Dave. Welcome to the Morning Slam, kids. All right, look, I know I've been gone for a little while with the Morning Slam, and I do want to apologize, but those of you who know what's been going on in my personal life, I have been in transition. As you can see from behind me, I'm still in transition, and I am going to my final destination very, very soon, and hopefully get everything back to the schedule that you guys are accustomed to. One of the big things will be the fate of this very YouTube channel, as I still have a strike from YouTube for advertising reasons that absolutely make no sense. We had no knowledge beforehand, but I'm hearing those strikes might be removed. Don't know if it's true. Don't really care. Have decided if I'm bringing all my shows back to YouTube anyway. But one thing that I believe will remain here will be this show, The Morning Slam. Your Morning Slam, your one-stop shop for all the wrestling news, opinions, information, spoilers, whatever the case may be. If it's wrestling and you want it, Dead on Dave's got it. And you know what? It's kind of appropriate if that's the majority of what ends up here. Now, I'm going to use this YouTube channel for a lot of different reasons, and there's a good possibility that I'm going to do 1 or 2 weekly shows here. But Twitch is going to be the main place, okay? Twitch will be the main place. And I just wanted to get that out before we started. Now, of course, the big thing going on in wrestling, especially in my world, everything that's happening with Vader. Leon White. Unfortunately, he passed away. Unfortunately, we now live on a planet where the Mastodon, the man, the power from Boulder, Colorado, Vader, Leon White, is no longer with us, and it's sad. Now, I just want to give you guys a quick rundown in case you don't know who Vader is. Let me tell it to you in the best possible way. Ultra Pro Wrestling Champion, Triple Crown Heavyweight Champion twice, World Tag Team Champion one time with Steve Williams. I know that name. Carnival Champion, Champion Carnival in 1999. Catch Wrestling Association Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion one time and 3-time World Heavyweight Champion. Impact Zone Wrestling IZW Heavyweight Champion one time. New Japan Pro Wrestling IWGP Heavyweight Champion on 3 separate occasions. Tag Team Champions one time with Bam Bam Bigelow. Super Grade Tag League with Tutsumi Fujinami. Jesus, I'm so sorry. IWGP title tournament winner, Pro Wrestling Illustrated Wrestler of the Year 1993, ranked number 2 in 500 singles wrestler. So many things. Pro Wrestling Noah, tag team champion there. Best tag team award from Tokyo Sports. I mean, it's nonstop. Universal Wrestling Association heavyweight champion, Union of Wrestling Forces International heavyweight champion there, World Championship Wrestling U.S. heavyweight champion and World Heavyweight champion, 3 times on that, 1 time on the U.S. title. World Wrestling Federation Slammy Award for Crime of the Century. Of course, that's the biggest award on this list. All these accolades, all these incredible things that he did in the wrestling world, all over the world. Still not a WWE Hall of Famer. That's the first thing I want to talk about. Before we get really deep into Vader and all of that and what he meant to me, and this is what the show is going to be. There's nothing else we talk about on the show but Vader and my own personal crap, which we already started with. The fact that Vader is not in the WWE Hall of Fame is something that perplexes me. It really does. Now, granted, Vader's WWE run was not the longest. I mean, he had multiple runs in the WWE. He was back and forth a couple of different times. But I don't understand a guy like Vader not being in the Hall of Fame. Vader had some really good runs in WWE and helped put some people over. Now, I'm thinking because the majority of his time was not in the best of times in WWE, he would come back in the Attitude Era and he would do some stuff with Goldust and Luna, Yokozuna, and things of that nature. But it really, I don't know, the roster and everything was so jam-packed that Vader was easy to get lost in the shuffle. And I think that is the problem with Vader's run. Vader's a guy who should never have gotten lost in the shuffle in any organization he's ever been in. And the fact that he has not been put in the Hall of Fame afterwards kind of tells you exactly what WWE thought of Vader. There are people with far less credentials, far less appeal, far less special attributes that wrestling and WWE really have embraced for so long, but yet Vader isn't in the WWE Hall of Fame. There's some politics that go along with that, obviously. There's a lot of reasons, I'm sure, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. When Vader was diagnosed a couple of years ago that he only had 2 years left to live, which he almost ended up going that entire time, I was expecting WWE to put Vader in, pull the trigger, but they didn't. They didn't, and I'm a little bit shocked. Some of these super heavyweights have not gone in. Him, Bam Bam, a few others, man. There's some big, massive mountains of men that have not gone into the Hall of Fame, and I think that Vader is probably the biggest exclusion. You know, there's a few others, and I'm not even talking the non-super heavyweights. You know, there's some great wrestlers that are simply not in. I mean, everybody talks about Owen Hart, you know, British Bulldog. There are a bunch of people who are not in the Hall of Fame, and it's unfortunate. But I mean, I think when you really look at the career that Vader had, and you look at everything that he did early on, especially, he helped establish guys. I mean, full-on established guys like Ric Flair, like Sting. You know, in the WWE, he helped put over Shawn Michaels in massive ways. Massive ways. People forget some of the matches. There was and this was not a good time for WWE, but there was a situation where, quite literally, Shawn was weighing in on power bombs because he was powerbombed massively in multiple times by Vader and by Sid Vicious. So I remember this. I remember this growing up as a kid, Shawn weighing in on which powerbomb was most devastating. And I think he ended up working an angle with both of them during that time as well. So they had tried to get Vader to that next level, to that next pop level in WWE, but I think it was just a very trying time. But there are so many wrestlers that you really get. Cactus Jack, Mankind, Mick Foley, another one that you really can't tell the story of without telling Vader's story as well. He was always there. He was always menacing. He's a throwback. And I don't mean that physically. He's not like when you use the Cesaro terminology. He's a throwback to old school. No. Vader's a throwback in every way because even when he was booked as a face, Vader quite literally never changed. Vader was Vader. When you talk about tweeners and you talk about people who would get cheered, there was always some small changes to the character, whether it be Stone Cold Steve Austin and some of the comedy things that he would do, or loosening up some of the overheel things that he would do when he was with $1 Million Man and such, or even when he was stunning Steve Williams back in the day with his Hollywood blonde hair and all of those things. There was obvious changes to his character. I think you could say the same thing about The Rock as well. You always knew when The Rock was heel or The Rock was face. He was always more abrasive. Yes, he always made fun of people, but and typically, especially towards the end of his career, it just depended on who he was making fun of, which would determine if he was heel or face. But there was always those nuances that everybody always has in wrestling that determine whether you're a heel or face. Vader didn't have them. I'm trying to think of times in my life where I can just remember, and not older Vader, I'm talking in his prime, top of his run Vader, ever really changing much about his presentation. Vader was going to come out. He was going to do his V's, which I still can't do. He was going to fucking do this thing that he does. He's going to do all those shits. And he was going to come to the ring and start pounding you with those open hand fucking shots that he would give Mankind. When he busted up Cactus Jack with his open hands on Saturday night in WCW, it's still one of my favorite matches on broadcast, or not broadcast, but regular TV, cable television, non-pay-per-view events, non-Monday Night Raws. This was one of the Saturday Night main events and stuff. This was the weekend shit that you would get in wrestling that so many of us just lived for, because you would sometimes get some of the best wrestling out there on those shows, and this was a good example of that. But this is what Vader would do. He would just walk up and just lay these shots in with his palms and his forearms, and that's how the sounds and the violence of the things that he would do would come across so heavily, and it was so much fun to watch. But that is who he was. A Vader bomb, a moonsault, incredible athleticism throughout the ring, but nothing changed. Nothing changed as far as him trying to placate the fans or try to get over. Vader simply was over. He was impossible to ignore. And if you need any evidence of that, go back to his New Japan days. Go back to his All Japan days. Go back to when he was in Japan, where at that time, now they've gotten away from this over time as going on, when they really appreciated the super heavyweight. I mean, they loved the super heavyweights when guys like Hogan would come over, when guys like Vader would come over, just everybody, any big massive mound of men. Brock Lesnar did it. So many did, and they would be hugely over because they were attractions. Vader was different because he was never one-dimensional. He was a guy who could do everything in that ring that you wanted him to do and make it believable. You felt like Vader hurt people, and sometimes Vader did. He was an incredible talent, athletically, from the time that he was in college to shit, even before that, when he was just a boy. You know, this is a guy who always just had it. A big man that could move. And he was always one of my favorites. Him and Bam Bam. I always loved those. Because I was a big man. I'm a big man that can move. Well, I can't anymore because I am crippled. But before I got hurt, I always fancied myself as a Vader, as a Bam Bam. Just a bigger guy in the upper 200s, sometimes 300s, that can move with authority, can move with conviction, can just manipulate your body in ways that not everybody at that size simply can. And Vader was that guy. And I know that I'm rambling and there's not a whole hell of a lot of substance to most of what I'm saying. It's just because this is my tribute to Vader. This is my tribute. This is my way of saying thank you to Vader. I am expecting him to go into the Hall of Fame this year. But Vader, you did a lot for me as a wrestling fan. You did a lot for wrestling. The fact that you would be such an incredible ambassador to and for wrestling long after your prime peaked is a testament to how much you love this industry. Now, at the very beginning of the show, you guys saw the 500 subscriber celebration. Now, I want to explain that real quick, and then we'll get out of here after that, shortly after that. When I hit 500 subscribers here on YouTube, long ago, hell, almost 4 years ago, I got a lot of love from a lot of people. And this is when I was primarily just wrestling. It was all I was wrestling. And I had a guy who I was in the Army with who found this site where a whole bunch of celebrities are on, and you could pay them like 30, 40, 50 bucks, depending on what they decided to charge, to do these shout-out videos, to do special personal hello videos, to even do promos, all kinds of different things. And this guy, for me hitting 500 subs, bought me 5 different videos. He did Christopher Daniels. He did Mick Foley. He did Jonathan the Coach Coachman, Tatanka, and Vader. And Vader was really special to me because it's Vader. And it was so cool to have Leon White send me that video, regardless if he was paid or not. I don't give a fuck. The fact that I got it and the fact that it lives on this channel forever is very cool and something I will always cherish. I marked out. I marked out just watching him now. I teared up just watching at the beginning of this episode because of how much Vader meant to me. You know, if you watched NWA, if you watched WCW, you couldn't avoid Vader. He was always around. It's unfortunate that we had to see Vader not want to give up, not on life, but on wrestling. And this is the last thing I kind of want to talk about when it comes to wrestlers, because Vader was wrestling up to the day he had the heart surgery, basically. You know, I mean, everybody remembers not that long ago he was in the ring with Will Ospreay, for fuck's sake. You know, it's scary when these guys, especially the bigger guys who have hip, knee, heart problems, they won't walk away. Now, I don't know Vader's financials, but I'd have to figure Vader had the type of career that where he could have lived off residuals easily. And I think he should have absolutely had a job backstage with somewhere. How is Vader not an asset? I'm sure it's just he didn't want to do it. But how would Vader not be an asset at like the PC, the Performance Center? Maybe he's just too hard and abrasive or whatever the case may be. But he could have been amazing there, been a finisher like Shawn Michaels is doing. But Shawn's good for this current crop of athletic, smaller to mid-sized guy. But who's there aside from Tensei? Don't get me wrong. I do love me some Tensei. I mean, who doesn't? But as much as, you know, love as he gets, you know, Prince Albert, and he deserves all the love. All the love. He's a fantastic wrestler. He was great. He was a lot of fun to watch. But he was very limited. Could you imagine? I'm not saying that Vader should have been in charge of the PC, because I think old Prince Albert does a great job as the new runner. Now, I can't even say new. It's been a while. The runner of NXT. But could you imagine if they had a guy like Vader who could just show these big guys how to be big guys, how to work? He is an asset. He didn't have to keep wrestling. And this is the cautionary tale that I think everybody needs to listen to that's in the wrestling industry. Know when to say goodbye. Know when to transition. Everybody else in life has to do it. When you get older, no matter what your profession is, no matter what you do, even if you work at McDonald's, there are times where you can't work the fryer anymore. You've gotten too old. And if you've done a decent enough job at what you were hired to do, you're going to move up and you're going to teach people. You're going to show people. You're going to manage people. And Vader never showed any inclination of wanting to do any of those things. Not saying he wouldn't help wrestlers out, because I know for a fact that he would. I've heard from a lot of people who would give stories, but he never wanted to transition. You know, lawyers, they become partners, or they go and teach at prestigious colleges. They prepare the next level of athlete. And I think this is where the disconnect comes in. This is where Vader's mind couldn't transition to the normal world, because wrestling, especially back in the older times when Vader started, it wasn't like that. You know, it wasn't about let's all start a school and give, you know, there were people who would do that. But you taught kids, you taught wrestlers, you brought people into the business by getting them over, by showing them the ropes, by having them pay their dues on the circuit. Things that you really can't do anymore, that have been extinct, that have been pushed out because of, you know, the loss of the territories and all of that, and just because of the culture, the way that's changed, and how now everything is so much more visible in the public eye. You can't live that life anymore. But it's also, it punishes people like Vader, who still have that same old mindset of just keep going until the wheels fall off. Because he couldn't. He couldn't possibly transition over for so many reasons, whether it just be in his head or whatever. But we see Jerry Lawler still wrestling even after a heart attack. Vader was talking about getting back in the ring before he had this little setback with pneumonia that would eventually, you know, put him back in the hospital for the final time. It really is hard to watch, and I think that's the most important thing that I think people need to take away from this. Is sometimes you got to know when your time is up and you have to move forward. You got to find that next transition, or it will literally kill you. It will literally take you off this planet, because when you cannot stop doing the things that your body is telling you that you can't do anymore, well, you don't have to listen to the rest of the world, but you should listen to your body. Don't be stubborn, and don't end up being another statistic. Not saying that Vader is, but he will always be a guy that people will remember who was in the ring with Will Ospreay and that would simply not stop doing what they love to do. Now, some people are going to hear, Dave, you have no right to tell these wrestlers that they can't love what they do and continue to pursue it. No, you're right. I have no right to tell them that. But we almost lost Jerry the King Lawler in the ring. We could have easily lost Vader in the ring. We see old-timers have health problems and just punish themselves for too long. And it's not about money for a lot of these guys. Vader certainly probably was not about money. It was just because he wanted to keep going. And that is the scary thing about wrestling, because it's so addicting. I'm 35 years old sitting here on the floor right now still talking about wrestling because of the addiction that I have to it. And it's not even all that satisfying at times, but there's something about it. There's something about the pageantry, the mastery, the idea of knowing that all of this athleticism, all this violence, all this carnage is happening, but nobody is supposed to be getting hurt. There's something about that makes it different. It walks both worlds of sports and entertainment, which is why it was put together in the first place. I don't think there's a more appropriate term ever been developed for anything than sports entertainment, because that's exactly what this is, and it's addicting because of those reasons. So I'm hoping that people learn from it. I'm hoping that people see that you have to learn to walk away at some point, because Vader probably could have got another 10 years on this planet. You know, had he have maybe downshifted around 50, even 55, and started taking care of himself and realizing that there are different paths in life, and there are different ways to feed that need, feed that obsession. So it's sad, and I hate to go on a sour note and on a more dour situation, but it is something that's been on my mind because we see this so often. So here's what I want from you guys. I want to know what your favorite Vader moments are, your favorite matches, your favorite feud. I'll give you right now my favorite feud is, I'm sorry to say it, it's the Ric Flair feud. Ric Flair and Vader. Those two, I could have watched them dance a million times. Everybody talks about Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat and all that, and you can have them taken to the bank anytime you want. But when a good big man and a good smaller guy go at it, go to war, underdog, David versus Goliath, I think there are no finer stories told, especially when those two guys are at the absolute physical top of their game, like Ric Flair and Vader were so many times when they would lock up. It's a special thing. If you haven't seen it and you don't know what I'm talking about, go back to so many different events. Starrcade, I know that Vader and Rick locked up a couple of times. Go check out what those two did with each other. Great American Bash, I know they had a good fight once. Those so what was it? There was a thing that they would do on TBS twice a year. Clash of the Champions. Clash of the Champions. He had a fantastic fight with Flair. There's so many things that you can go back and watch, because when you see it, it changes you. When you see two guys like that go, it shows you what wrestling really can be. So that's what I want you guys to go check out. But let me know what you think is Vader's crowning achievements and the things that you think will be remembered most about the big man from Boulder, Colorado? And do you think that 2019 will finally be the year that Vader goes into the Hall of Fame? If Vader doesn't go in, there's no hope for the rest of them. Because I don't know if there is a Hall of Fame without a guy like Vader. I think you could throw Bam Bam in that category too, but I think Bam Bam will go in this year because it's in New Jersey. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. Hopefully you enjoyed the Morning Slam. New recorded version. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. If you'd rather see this as a live show on Twitch, let me know. I will consider doing it. Haven't decided fully yet exactly what I want to do, but I like the idea of keeping the wrestling here on YouTube since we started with wrestling here on YouTube. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Tell me what you guys think. Tell me if you like the new recorded version. I want to hear from you. Hit me up down in the comment section below to keep the conversation going. Also, hit me up on Twitter at DeadOnDaveD and so many other places. Catch me on Twitch. We will see you next time. Keep it copious, folks. And remember, as always, if you don't have talent, have talented friends. And peace.